Hi there, I am Laina, and I consider myself a warrior for God. Now, this isn't something that I just came up with one day and thought, what a great marketing concept. It's actually something that has emerged from deep within my soul. As I have been a teacher of spiritual principles, in essence, teaching people how to connect with spirit, source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it, their essential self, their authentic self, their higher self. I have been doing that for over 15 years, helping people really tap into that source within themselves. We all have it. If you're alive, what do you think animates you? That intelligence that animates you, that runs this body, that created this body, that gives it life and vitality and well-being, that source is the source of creation itself, created us like itself. God created us in its image, and its image is creative energy, it's life. We have that because it created us like itself. For a very long time, I went through a really uncomfortable journey where I didn't want anything to do with God. I was beginning to learn that there was a higher power, but it was bumping up against my idea of that higher power. I grew up with Catholic ideas of God, specifically of it being a male with a long white beard sitting on a cloud somewhere, kind of like neighbors with Santa Claus, deciding who's good or bad, who's going to go to hell and who's not, who's going to get turned into a pillar and who is not. And I went through an incredible journey. We call it the dark night of the soul. But it's really not the dark night of the soul. It's the revelation of the soul, the revealing, I would say the resurrection of the soul. But what happens is that it's the long years of observing and coming to know what the ego is and eventually crucifying that part of ourselves. And inside of that process of crucifying my inauthentic self and allowing for the emergence of my true self, I got to see a lot of fears that I had about God. And it was hard to tap into and connect with my higher self, my true self, that's made of the essence of God, while I was fearing God. That's a challenging thing to embrace, that you're made of God when you don't like the God that's up there on a cloud that's going to punish you. So I went through quite a journey to really heal those misconceptions. And I had to just look at the beliefs that I had. I had to experience the times that I blamed God, judged God, was angry with God, disappointed with God, go pleading to God. So in many ways, I had to leave the God that I grew up with and embrace an unknown God, a God that I had to come to feel my way to understanding. That led me through my incredible search to the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is a course in training your mind to understand that we all have two ways of thinking, two thought systems, the way of God and the way of the ego. The ego is the trained, programmed information that we receive, and then the voice for God is the voice of intuition, is that which allows us to receive things that have never been. If you get curious and wonder, where do songs that have never been written come from? If they weren't written, how could somebody get them? They had to be there, right, before you could receive them. If there wasn't a formula for something, if there wasn't an idea for a new gadget, where does that come from? If we think we already know all there is, how can there be more that expands us? So as I entered into contemplations with questions like that, and I was studying A Course in Miracles, I began to realize that for me to be able to move beyond my old limited idea of God, the God that kind of fits into one book, that is a man put together book, I had to begin to connect with God, to find out what God is. So I went on a quest, on a journey to discover God. And what was really fascinating is that I realized God was closer than my breath, absolutely closer than my breath. I've got to pull in that breath but God was already in me, the one breathing that breath. I came to realize that God wasn't a man. It wasn't an old man with a beard. And it wasn't outside. Like I said, it was closer than my breath, so it had to be inside of me. And it wasn't a man. It's an energy. It's energy. I can't even say it's an energy. There's only one energy. It's energy. It's masculine, feminine. It's all of it. It's all of it. It's wholeness. It's oneness. It's the all that isness. All of it. And in realizing that if it was closer than a breath, and it is all that is, I had to begin to accept myself as being the home for God. And that began a journey of really tapping into, if I were God, what would I do? And I began to feel, they call it father. I began to feel that as a parent, how do I treat my children? Would I give birth to children, raise them, and then let them know, oh, you missed one little thing. Now forever you're going to go to hell. A parent doesn't do that. A normal parent doesn't do that. And that level of questioning my understanding of God and beginning to feel the essence of this creative source inside of me and beginning to realize how powerful I am, that times when I would just not have an answer to a question, I could tap in and ask for guidance, and like it magically appeared. And I would go, where did that come from? I didn't know that answer a few minutes ago. And it wasn't an answer that I already knew, so it's not like I remembered it. It's not like I went to my memory banks, but I began to be so awed by this amazing source, this amazing power, always left me feeling joyful, peaceful, happy, certain, clear, and above all, it always left me feeling so good about myself. Not in an egotistical way, because that's what I was discovering about my ego, but I'm not going to talk about the ego much here. Just to say that the ego is what blocks us from being able to have this experience. But once you begin to have that experience, then the work is to let go of what the ego has been blocking, what the ego is, which is the block to the awareness of the presence of God inside of us. But as I have been sitting here, here we are in August 2021, asking God, what can I do? How can I be used to be in greater service to humanity, especially since becoming a grandmother just a few short months ago? Knowing that there is so much that I can do to help humanity understand what's going on in their mind. The only reason this world's in the mess that it's in is because we've been listening to the voice for the ego. We got selfish. We wanted to do things our way, not the voice of God, which is expansive and requires collaboration and co-creation. So as I've been sitting with God, what can I do to help this world and leave it a better place for my grandson, plus for when I incarnate? And I have been called to be a warrior for God, to speak about God, to stand up and share the good news about the God that I discovered, that all of us can discover. Jesus taught us about that. Muhammad taught us about that. Everybody that goes there and experiences that God within has a hard time describing it, but we all do our very best to share the essence of it. And when you look at every single thing that's been written about God, especially if you read what the Sufi poets wrote, like Rumi, you cannot help but see that God is love. God is love. It is loving. It is a creator, and it is all about expansion. It is eternal. All those big words that we use, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, all of those big words. So to cultivate a relationship with something that massive, you cannot help but feel like you want to do something big on this planet. But not because I need to receive anything for it. I'm going to do this no matter what. Cannot stop me from expressing what is coming through me, because it's what I know makes me the happiest to share the good news. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Because with that good news comes well-being, comes certainty, comes clarity, comes the ability to connect with people. Because when you don't come trying to get something from somebody, people feel safe in your presence. So as a warrior for God, I am going to be offering messages. You know, I was hearing Jesus's consciousness having me share messages that we are the light of the world, and those are going to continue. But now it's like God is saying, no, let's talk about God. Let's talk about God in the way that Laina talks about God. Because it's going to matter to somebody. I don't know who, but it will matter to somebody. There is somebody out there that is teetering with a relationship with God. And all you need to know is that it is safe, it is loving, it is gentle, it's empowering, and it will leave you peaceful. And if that appeals to you, I want to help you. You know, that's what I've been doing for 15 years. Go to my website, lainaorlando.com. I'm going to be putting more of my events there, but also you'll be able to find many blogs. You'll be able to find podcasts, and you can go to my YouTube channel and find all kinds of videos. I am very, very generous with sharing all the information that I receive because it's life-changing. But I want to share with you from A Course in Miracles, lesson 319. There are 365 lessons in the course, and you'll be able to find in my Ascension Academy the ability to find the 365 lessons and purchase it is very nominal, and it will give you 365 lessons, plus there are many other sections that are part of this, that are supplements that assist that. And you will have an entire year of going through the course, of being able to do a major process of renewing your mind that will transform you. But let me share what lesson 319 says. The title is, I Came for the Salvation of the World. And this is where I'm feeling. This is exactly where I am feeling today. As a warrior for God, is knowing that I came for the salvation of the world. What does that mean? Salvation. It means that I came to really see what's going on in the world and not be of it. Like Jesus said, be in it but not of it. And to save the world is to spare the world of my egoic judgment. So I save it by bringing forth what God wants me to bring forth. Paragraph 1, there's only 2 paragraphs. Here is a thought from which all arrogance has been removed and only truth remains. Yeah. I came for the salvation of the world. My ego would have been very arrogant. I came to save the world. You know, I'm the only one who can fix it. I came to save the world because only I can spare it of what Laina would do to it. And I know that I am one of many millions of other teachers and healers and moms and dads and preachers and rabbis who also understand the truth of who we are and are very confident in their certainty that they are here on a mission from God. It then goes on to say in sentence 2, for arrogance opposes truth. If I say I'm not here to save the world, that'd be opposing truth. That'd be quite arrogant. But when there is no arrogance, the truth will come immediately and fill up the space the ego left unoccupied by lies. When we stop lying to each other, lying to ourselves, first we got to stop lying to ourselves. Then all of a sudden there is a space that opens up that only God can fill. And when God fills you, you know you're here to save the world because that love does not allow you to condemn it. And in our acceptance of the world, how it is, we can then begin to become part of the solution because we're not pushing against what we don't like. Rather, we are zeroing in on what is beautiful and wonderful and magical, and it just needs room to expand. It needs somebody to witness it and call it forth. Only the ego can be limited, and therefore it must seek for aims which are curtailed and limiting. Do you know the reason we keep repeating the same old things and cannot move past the repetition of war, of deceit, of greed, of killing and maiming and suffering and hunger? You know why we can't move past that? Because the ego only has a very limited playbook. And it repeats the same old thing. It's about conquest and winning. And once I win, that's it, game over. And humanity has gone through this so many times. You know, a few convince the many to give them all their power, and the ones with power then go and want to conquer the other ones. And once you conquer the other ones, and there's only one left, and humanity is moving in that direction to where we're close to that one new world order, this one world government that is going to take over, and all of us are ignorantly moving along with this trajectory to the point that we are not paying attention. Many are not paying attention. That is totally and completely against God's will, because God created us to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you can't be happy if you're not free. You need to have your liberty to experience the joy that comes from within, that allows you to be one, that contributes, that cooperates and co-creates and expands what God created. But right now, everything is contracting. Things are falling apart. They're falling into themselves under the weight of greed. You can look around, and that's all that's happening. We don't go to war to save people, to protect people. We go to war to take their minerals, to take their stuff, to conquer them and have more people to rule over. Not because it's a loving thing to do or the peaceful thing to do, but that's all that the ego has done. It is always completely operating in limitation and the curtailing of freedom. The ego thinks that what one gains, totality must lose. So the ego thinks, I'm going to take it from you. I'm going to take the stuff from this country or that continent or this planet, and the whole universe is going to have less because I got more. That's a mentality of lack, of not enoughness, of not understanding the power of God to create expansively, unlimitedly. And yet, it is the will of God that I learn that what one gains is given unto all. So as you align with the voice of God inside of you, this is how we save the world. You realize that what I do for me that is good, I expand it for the rest. Jesus said, love God. You come to that relationship with God, then you cannot help but love your neighbor as yourself, because you realize that you gain when I gain. So I am saving the world from my nonsense, from my lies, from my misperception and misconceptions. And I am beginning to learn the truth of who we each are, find that truth in me, and then resonate with that truth in you. Then align with you and find the tribe where we're going to be operating at that same frequency, because it's energy, so it's all frequency. And once we align with that within us, you can't help but be on a mission, for God. You cannot help but realize that you are a powerful being, a warrior indeed. I didn't think I was a warrior. I was all love and light. But in my all love and light, my ego began to want to block me from looking at the darkness that is here. Because if I look at the darkness is to recognize my part in it. And that's how you save the world. You save the world from the darkness you have cast on it, because you've cleaned it up inside of you. And you cannot be a seeker of the light that continues to deny the darkness that is within yourself. So once you clean it in yourself, everybody else is doing the best that they can with what they've got, and they've got wrong information. They can only operate in a certain way. And if they've got limited information, which is what the ego is, they keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. As Einstein said, that's pure insanity. Course in Miracles tells us the ego is insane. So there's a lot of things that need to be learned and put together and discovered and applied before all this makes sense. But if this is resonating with you, because there's truth in you that is vibrating with the same truth that I am sharing with you, and it's a match, then that means that you're ready to receive whatever this message is sharing. And you get to either connect with me, let's come to some of my events, or you just get to hear this. It activates something in you, and you go about your merry way, having been expanded because of what you heard. It's not as limited as what you have known in your own head, because this speaks to the heart, and it's about unleashing the incredible love that is inside of us. And love looks like kindness, generosity, compassion, forgiveness, but it is also very firm, and it does not put up with the nonsense that our ego mind has created. This is why when I was in my love and light, phase, and we all go through that enter that phase, you've got to go to the place where you are so love and light you can't be bothered with the negativity. Oh no, I don't do negative stuff. I did that too. But when you mature enough in your journey and you are ready to go to the next step, and you're ready to assume your position at the right hand of the Father, Mother, God, Source, and that's just metaphorical because what you're accepting is God in you. Once you're ready for that I am the Father, Mother, God are one, then begins the process of realizing that we have to face what is of ego and say, no, you have no power over me anymore. I am about to save you from your own insanity by letting you know that I see the presence of God in you, by acknowledging the good that is in you to call that forth because it's been in hiding all this time. Because when we listen to the voice of the ego, we are not listening to the voice of God. And that good part of us kind of gets put in the background when the selfish one comes forward. The one that has to do things to make me look good, to make me feel good. And that's how we all operate, whether that part of us shows up as an ego or it shows up as an ego, but either a victim or a bully. That's a different story, but we have got to call forth the essence of who we are. I hit this thing and it tipped it a little bit. All right, let me read the second paragraph, and it's very short, but it's a prayer. Father, your will is total. God willed for us to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Course in Miracles says this, and our Constitution says that is what God granted each and every one of us as inalienable right. So whether it was written 200 years or 250 years ago, or we hear in the Course in Miracles written 50 years ago, truth is truth is truth. And when it resonates, because that frequency feels right, feels good, then you know you've happened upon truth. Everything else is made up. All right, Father, your will is total. And the goal which stems from it shares its totality. My goal is to totally and completely extend the kingdom of God to all that I meet. Treat everybody with loving kindness, love my neighbor as myself, uphold them, acknowledge their freedoms, and if they want to do things that are not what I would do, it's okay. And the reason it's okay is because I'm not afraid of their choices, because I have the protection of God in me. And that's something that we need to understand, is that when we are in alignment with God, we don't have to worry about, how other people can affect us, because nobody can affect what goes on inside of us. Now, it doesn't mean that we are not in a physical world and there's protection that needs to happen, and there are certain things that we need to be aware of and take certain stance and create boundaries or what have you. But nobody has power for what you think or what you feel. Everything that you believe by agreement with it. So even if it's given to you and it's misinformation, your acceptance and agreement of it makes it a choice that you have made to accept it. This is why as children we get programmed with things that don't resonate with us as we become adults, and then we just kind of have to let those things go. No, Mom, I'm not going to believe your religion, or Dad, I'm not going to do what you want me to do as a career, because you begin to listen to your own inner guidance. So the next says, what aim but the salvation of the world could you have given me? And what but this could be the will myself has shared with you? What but this could be the will that myself, capital S self, higher self, true self, soul self, spirit self, could have with God? Because once we remember God is inside, once God awakens inside of us, we then begin another journey. It's a journey of ascension. The journey of ascending to see more of what God has created. We move beyond this city, this village, this county, this country, this continent, this planet, and you begin to see, how does all this fit in everything? Because if God is one energy and all that is what God is, then you become curious about all that there is, and you move beyond what your mind has been controlled to focus on. You move beyond, and the universe just gets magnificently bigger and more exquisite, and you begin to understand more about the play of energy, of light and dark, and you realize that there's just such freedom in truth. The truth does set you free. And then you can be in this world but not be of it, because you understand that everything that is happening is a game of energy. It's a dance of energy, however you want to call it. It's a play of energy. The script is written so that the energy ebbs and flows. And as you understand it, you ride the wave with it. If you don't understand it, you get sucked into the darkness of it. And right now, humanity has so much light on this planet. Many of us are riding the wave that whatever was dark has to surface for us to look at it. Say no to it. We're done with playing in limitation by looking at it and calling forth that which is expansive that we see, and call it forth. This is a beautiful time for me, and I'm on this mission, and there are a lot of things that I'm going to call out. I'm going to call out the goodness that is in people in our governments, the goodness that is in people in big pharma, the goodness that is in each and every one of my brothers and sisters who are operating on this planet in devious ways. And they might think that that's their reality, but I know that there's goodness in there, and my work on this mission is to call it forth, because that's how we are going to get everybody to play in a high frequency, to play the game in love and light, in curiosity and expansion and creativity. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm so grateful that even though for a long time I said no to God, I'm not going to go talk about God. I'm not going to go tell anybody that I'm on a mission from God. They're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to think I watched too many of those Blues Brothers movies. But now I'm okay with that, because there's no greater honor than to be a warrior for God and to be here on a mission to help humanity realize that we all came for the salvation of the world. And it starts with me. If you enjoy this, go to my website, lainaorlando.com. Go to my YouTube channel, Laina Orlando. Follow me on social media, Laina Orlando. And there you go. That's all I've got to offer. Love you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.